Welcome to This Explainer. Look, today we're unpacking an absolute game changer. We're talking about a historic regulatory shift that has literally unlocked the ability for any business to launch its own fully compliant, heavily automated, tokenized network. And we're doing it using Evervolve AI. So no more guessing what the regulators want, and no more building complex infrastructure from scratch. We are looking at a fundamental, massive change in exactly how traditional asset sponsors can finally operate on-chain. So let's kick things off with a massive what if. What if the law actually allowed you to issue your own digital currency, a currency tailored exclusively to your operations, but without triggering those massive, terrifying securities violations? Well, as of 2026, that door hasn't just been unlocked, it has been blown wide open. Section 1. The Catalyst, Spring 2026 Regulatory Breakthroughs. Okay, let's look at how wildly fast these three binding actions changed the game. They took the legal foundation from pure Wild West speculation straight into concrete reality. Boom. In March, we get the SEC and CFTC's joint 5-category taxonomy for tokens. Then, just a month later in April, the SEC announces their Innovation Exemption Sandbox, which essentially allows for compliant secondary trading for the very first time. And to top the whole thing off, the Genius Act establishes a rock-solid stablecoin framework that goes into effect in November. The takeaway here? It's absolutely massive. The days of just sitting on the sidelines waiting and hoping for the SEC and CFTC to give us a framework are officially over. The rules are written, guys. The sandbox is active right now. You don't have to beg for clarity anymore. You just have to build within these incredibly clear, legally binding guardrails. Section 2. The Paradigm Shift. Enter the sovereign economy. We are looking at such a stark contrast here. Think about the old way. It just jammed real-world asset economics, governance, and utility into one globally traded, legally dubious super token. It was an absolute nightmare for compliance. But the new way? It relies on federated sovereign economies that separate all these functions cleanly and legally. Think about it like this. Instead of trying to bootstrap global liquidity for some random, highly volatile token, you get to act as the architect of your own digital nation. A sovereign economy is completely bounded. You immediately mitigate your regulatory exposure because, well, you aren't trying to be the next global currency. You are a meticulously governed ecosystem sized specifically for your actual community of users, operators, and investors. Section 3. The Engine. Evervolve's 3-layer architecture. So, how do we build this? Layer 1 is the shared foundation. This means you get enterprise-grade AI-native infrastructure completely out of the box, zero protocol-level meta token risks. Evervolve provides the smart contract templates. They give you this incredible AI orchestration layer called Centaur OS and all the native compliance tooling. This is the absolute bedrock that ensures your economy functions legally and smoothly from day one. Now, moving up the stack, you retain total control of your business at Layer 2. You decide the governance, you hold the asset registry, you define the community, it's all you. Meanwhile, there's this optional Layer 3 bridge. This allows your network to securely interact with other federated economies whenever you are actually ready to do so. It's entirely modular, meaning you can scale your interconnectedness precisely when it suits your business goals. Section 4. The Mechanics, the 7-instrument stack. Okay, the sheer brilliance of this stack is the clear separation of rights. By cleanly dividing economic interests from utility tools, we slot perfectly into that new SEC and CFTC taxonomy. Your asset token, that represents real-world value, so it's rightly categorized as a digital security. But your work token, which just rewards physical effort within your specific network, that's a digital tool. Payments are handled separately by a fully compliant stablecoin. Everything is beautifully compartmentalized. And because of this brilliant setup, your operational tokens never even touch public exchanges. They don't promise any sort of financial yield. By simply respecting the new taxonomy and treating each layer according to what it actually does, you completely dismantle all those regulatory traps that caught so many of the early Web3 projects. Section 5. Powering Decentralized Physical Work, or DePIN. Now we're getting into the burn and mint equilibrium. It's just this incredibly elegant mechanism that completely isolates your enterprise customers from token volatility while still cleanly rewarding physical work, like compute cycles. Look, your customers don't want to deal with fluctuating crypto prices, right? So they just buy stable credits. Behind the scenes, that exact purchase burns the supply of work tokens, and then your hardware operators earn newly minted tokens for their actual verifiable labor. But how do we know they did the work? Since the physical work happens off-chain, Evervolve provides these lightweight, highly scalable verification primitives. They ensure economic security without all the bloated, crazy costs of permissionless networks. Whether you're using trusted execution environments to verify compute power or sign smart meters for energy delivery, the system algorithmically guarantees that the physical work being rewarded actually happened. It's trust, but verified. Section 6. Tokenization as a service, the commercial model. Let's talk business model. Evervolve acts as a pure software provider, not an issuer. They monetize through SaaS and protocol fees, rather than relying on some risky, highly volatile meta token. You pay a predictable subscription for the incredible AI and compliance tools, alongside a really small usage fee on operational flows. But here is the critical part. Evervolve never taxes your capital formation. Your securities issuances are entirely yours. Look at this default 2.0% protocol fee. To put that into perspective, it applies strictly to operational flows, like those stablecoin credit purchases within your economy. It benchmarks incredibly well against traditional enterprise software, providing them with the sustainable revenue needed to keep upgrading those amazing AI tools while leaving your core asset economics completely untouched. And the enterprise-grade transparency here is just next level. It guarantees that Evervolve never, ever commingles platform revenue with your sovereign economy's treasuries or your investor assets. The routing is handled by fully audited smart contracts. You can literally verify on-chain that platform fees are strictly separated from your operations. This is exactly the kind of institutional guardrail that makes this whole platform so incredibly powerful. Section 7. Built for traditional RWA sponsors. So who is this actually for? Well, if you have established asset operations and investor relationships, this platform is your golden ticket. It allows you to completely modernize your issuance and reporting without stepping foot into the crypto-native Wild West. Whether you're managing real estate, massive infrastructure, energy assets, or private credit, Evervolve hands you a turnkey, highly automated ecosystem. Simply put, you bring the assets, they provide the regulatory and technical rails. So how do you actually launch this thing? The roadmap is refreshingly straightforward. You rely on Reg D 506C and the new innovation exemption to establish a perfectly compliant foundation for your entire network. You issue securely to accredited investors, you use the AI agents to handle all the tedious compliance and reporting workflows, and you step confidently into the SEC sandbox, knowing your entire architecture is flawlessly mapped to their new taxonomy. The playbook has been written, folks. The AI tools are primed and ready to go, and the choice is now entirely yours. How will you architect the future of your business? We finally have the absolute legal clarity and the technological horsepower to make this a reality. So the only question left is, what will your sovereign economy look like? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to dive deep into these frameworks as you build out your next incredible project.